Welcome to Versus. This is Spencer. Today we're comparing a couple of worker placement games, Village and Tzolk'in. Both are just really great. I like them quite a bit. Let's first talk about Village. The story behind Village is you are a family of multiple generations. You start out with just a little farm here with 4 little farmers, first generation farmers, and this board represents mostly the village, hence the name Village, where you have like a church and you've got some different production buildings, and here you have the political city hall, and over here there's a market where stuff can be sold. Out here's the world, so you can go out and explore the world. And here is kind of what's called the Book of Remembrance, or the Book of the Dead, or the Village Chronicle. I can't remember exactly. Essentially what you're going to be doing on your turn is the world will be seated. You can kind of lightly see these different colored ovals, and you will take a cube. Now, when you take a cube, you can now perform an action associated with that area, whether it be production or whether it be something to do with the church, sending someone off to the church, or something to do with, here there's marriage, or this represents getting more workers. Now, anytime you get a new worker, they come from the next lowest generation. So you start with all of your first generation workers, then later you have some second generation, third, and you can even get up to 4th generation. Now during the game, one specific component here is time. Now there's also normal resources. These represent different types of influence. There's also some different things you can craft. You can get animals, you can get plows, scrolls, etc. But during the game, there will also be times, sometimes represented by these black cubes, they're called plague cubes, where you have to move around this track. And this represents time. Now, every time it goes all the way around the track and crosses the bridge, someone in your family dies. And so that could be someone, maybe someone you've sent out into the village or the world to do different actions, or maybe it's just one of your people that are still here on your farm. But essentially when they die, you then take them and you put them in this book. When the book is filled up, the game is over. If someone dies from an area, you see how this red symbol matches this red symbol. So if someone happens to be here in the political offices when they pass away, when they die, then that's why they go here in this red section. If this red section happens to be filled up, and then someone here in this building with the red crest dies, this is filled up. We can't remember that many people. We can't remember that many political people. So they would go here into these unmarked graves. Essentially, though, if the unmarked graves are filled, or if this book is filled, the game is over. Okay, that's a brief overview of Village. Next we have Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. In Tzolk'in, you're doing some different worker placement in order to gather resources. One of the main drivers of this game is corn. You can also get wood, you can get ore, gold, etc. You can build these buildings. You can move up on this technology tree, which is really interesting. You can move up in these temples, so you can move up on how you worship the gods. You can also collect these crystal skulls, which everyone loves. They're just really great. And kind of the main board here is that it rotates. Okay, this is the most intriguing part of the game. So when you put a worker out on the board, there's 5 different locations where you can typically put your workers. So when it's your turn, and let's say you place a worker here on this section, and if you look closely here, you can see there's a wood symbol, there's ore and corn and gold and corn and a crystal skull. When you're done, we'll rotate. That means this gear will shift and this person will move up. During your turn, you can do one of 2 things. Number 1, you can place workers out on the board, whether it be here to on this gear or over here, etc. Or you take workers off the gears. Now, the only time you actually get any benefit from the workers is when you take them off the gears. So when you place them on here, you want to time it right so that it will continue to turn until eventually you take it off the gear, and then you would get whatever's associated with that. So that's kind of a brief overview of Tzolk'in. Tzolk'in, as you can see, worker placement, similar to Village. Some other similarities as well. A big similarity, and the main reason why I wanted to compare the two is because there's an element of time. So here in Village, it's a little more abstract. It's not as visual. You do have this track here that goes around, but there's an element of time. As time passes, then people pass away, they die, they go into the chronicle, etc. Over here in Tzolk'in, it's a little bit more evident because these gears turn. And as they turn, your workers will turn around the gears, and you'll typically get better options. The longer you leave them on there, the longer they go around the gears, the better options you'll get. And so it's kind of a timing aspect where you want to put them out there to make sure that you time it right and you don't take them off until you've maximized whatever you're trying to do with that worker. So that's kind of a main comparison of the two. Both have resources, of course. Both kind of thinly themed. Village, I would say, is a little bit more evident on the story that it's trying to tell. You have these family members and you're sending them off to do different actions. You can kind of get into the story of it a little more so than Tzolk'in. Tzolk'in's a bit more abstract. To be honest, I'm not really sure what these cylinders are. I guess they're people. I don't know if we're clansmen or it's just not as kind of clear. So as far as the story is concerned, I would probably say Village is a bit more evident in that aspect of it. However, straight up comparing the game, both of them I like quite a bit, but Tzolk'in is a better game. Now, when I say better game, it's a lot more deep. There's a lot more layers. You have these buildings. You also have monuments, and you have different ways to score points. It's a lot more open-ended, a lot more choices involved. So this one is a little more complex, a little more deep, a little more heavy. Not extra heavy or anything, but definitely a non-confrontational Euro game that's a little heavier than medium. Whereas Village is a bit lighter. It's a little bit easier to introduce to someone who's maybe either new, or maybe you don't have as much time, or maybe you're just not interested in being as heavy into a game. Village is a bit better. It's still meaty enough that you can have lots of good choices, lots of good decisions, especially when it comes for a race to who can get into this book. Sometimes you actually want to progress this time quicker around the board so that your people die sooner so that you can get into this book. But if I were to say the better game, it would be Tzolk'in. However, there's so many times when I would bring out Village much before Tzolk'in. For example, if I have some new players that I'm introducing to a game, or when I have some people, maybe we have some people over to the house and we want to just get out something that they've played. Maybe they played Ticket to Ride or something more gateway, but this is a good one to introduce next. So there you have kind of a brief overview of Village and Tzolk'in. Both are definitely worthy to be played. Both you'll have a lot of fun with, and both you should try and maybe even own. I'm glad I have both, and I play and enjoy both quite a bit. Thanks. Have a good one.